Hello, and welcome back to Female Founderhood, the podcast where you actually are eavesdropping two female founders chatting about, nattering about, and especially discussing about the blood, sweat, and tears, what it takes for a woman with all of our challenges to actually build a business. So tune in, put your earphones on, go for a walk, go to the gym, and listen in to me having a conversation with Eugenia. Ooh, I should have asked you as well before. How do I pronounce your last name?
Dunaeva.
Dunaeva. Oh, well, as you can hear from the sexy accent, so Eugenia is from Espanol. So tell me, what do people, because I see your LinkedIn and you do all sorts of things. So what are you really known for other than being super gorgeous and super brainiac?
Well, thanks, Rebecca. Pleasure to be part of the podcast. Thanks for having me. And thanks for pronouncing and asking actually how to pronounce my surname. That's beautiful. Yeah, I do live in Spain at the moment, but I'm actually originally Russian. So it's
Oh my
various
goodness.
sorts of. Yeah, I'm
That
Russian.
is,
I'm from St. Petersburg.
oh my God, that is no wonder your last name is Dunaeva. So your father's name is, or how would that be pronounced without the A? Dunaev?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So you are not Spanish, but you are a Ruski living in Espanol. This is my
One can
first
say so,
combo.
but it's yes. I've been living actually outside of Russia for quite a long time. This year is going to be 14 years. So I don't know if by now I'm more Russian or international. And
Yeah.
I've been here in Spain for the last 2 years. Before that, I was in Germany. I did my MBA in the UK. I lived in Mexico as well, a little bit in the US. So it's a mix of different, I guess, experiences and perspectives that's
Mhm.
boiling in me. And to your first question, how would I know to be known? Because I do so many things. That's actually an interesting one. First and foremost, I think, is the CEO and founder of Ultralite Consulting, because that's
Mhm.
the most important piece, I guess, from the things that I do now. Um, and this is where I work with startups and actually traditional companies as well, advising them and supporting them, helping them with commercial strategy, partnerships, monetization, B2B sales. So some of the things
Mm.
that are, I think, very important and probably every business sometimes at any point of their journey needs help with.
Mm.
Apart from that, some of the things that I do are I am actually an angel investor. I work either directly with startups investing directly, or I'm also connected with a couple of angel syndicates.
Mhm.
I do invest a lot in industries and businesses that are close to my heart. Some of the
Mhm.
industries that are actually femtech. Some of them are travel tech, climate technology as well. And another hat that I wear is I'm a partner at a venture fund where we invest collectively as an institution in repeat founders that work in AI and ML space. So something that's very much on the hype now, but the fund
Yeah.
where I work, DVC, they actually have been doing it way before the whole bonanza with OpenAI and whatnot. So those are three things that I mainly do now.
Mhm.
I'd say in general, it's a very interesting point in my life and career where I'm at, or where I started kind of being last year, like where I continue.
Mhm.
It's the moment when I transitioned from my corporate career, which has been quite long, to this
Mm.
solo entrepreneurship journey with Ultralight. Right. because before Ultralite, I was leading a new business development team at the partnerships division at Meta. So literally working with technical partners that help advertisers get better returns on Facebook, on Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger. So these are technical partnerships and kind of how to make most of them commercially. So that has been my bread and butter. And before that, before Meta, I was with another Fortune 100 company, Expedia, also doing B2B partnerships and business development for them. So I guess
Amazing.
that's the peculiarity of the journey in a way when you transition from, large budgets, large corporations, managing like multiple stakeholders, but internally to where you do similar things, perhaps at a smaller scale now, but mostly actually externally.
Oh, wow. That is amazing and I totally relate with you because my career journey is not a straight. I used to be like my very first job was as a magazine reporter. And then I went on to become the magazine editor. And then after working for years in editorial, I moved to PR. And the PR was specifically in travel industry. So I'm highly familiar with Expedia, TripAdvisor, all of that ecosystem.
You're
And
very
I met
familiar with that. Amazing.
Oh yeah. And guess where I met my husband? It was in ITB. You know ITB, the travel expo
Yes,
from
the biggest travel fair in Berlin. Yeah. I can't even
Yes.
I can't even count how many times I was there, how many years
I
I
know.
was
Can you
present there.
believe? So ITB in Berlin has um a a branch, I guess. So they do ITB in Berlin in March, and then they do ITB Asia in Singapore every
They
October.
have one for Asia as well. Yeah.
Yes.
I personally have never gone to the one in Asia. I should have.
Yeah. But so you can imagine the floor of ITB. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, that's where I met my husband. Uh, so it's the most peculiar thing as well. Like, who would have thought? But yeah, and then I moved to to work in a 5-star hotel. I used to work for Kempinski. I'm sure you know the brand.
For sure.
Exactly. I worked for Kempinski for 5 years. And then after that, I worked for a NGO startup. So I've also been in and out of different industry, different sectors until I built my own marketing agency using all of that knowledge that I have. But now, even in my marketing agency, I serve only feminist founders. So I serve multiple genders, but they for sure will have to be a feminist to work with me because I cannot stand otherwise. And I'm sure you imagine as well, you know all the stats. Women in tech, not very many. Women in VC, not very many, right? And even worse, a VC funded startup that is female led is even more minuscule in numbers. So before we get into that, I want to know also, how did you find moving from the travel industry to work in Meta? Completely different set of people, different set of lifestyle. How was that?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And actually that one is I was debating with myself for quite a long time whether to move out of the industry where you know pretty much everything and everyone to something that's completely unknown, right? But funny enough, I think my kind of career in travel and hospitality, which was like before Expedia, I also was leading a commercial
Mm.
team at a hotel chain. And this is how I actually was poached by Expedia,
Mm.
because when they were establishing the operations in Russia back then and in Eastern Europe, they needed someone on the ground with experience and with a network. And that's how initially I get hired, and then spent
Mm.
11 years there, kind of going through the ranks and
Wow.
doing various things. Yeah, no,
Mhm.
it was a great time when you have the opportunity to shape something from scratch, right?
Yeah.
That's where you actually see your impact. That's very rewarding. So I think I'm forever
Mhm.
grateful to Expedia for all the amazing experiences that I had there. But yeah, at one point, really, I realized that it's not that, I'm learning lots of new things every day as I used to.
Mm.
And I think this is
Mm.
where, this is this kind of inflection point, right? Each of us, we have in our careers where we start thinking, okay, what are my values and how
Mm.
what I do
Mhm.
correlates with my values. And for
Yeah.
me, learning is actually one of the values that like score very high on the list. So I do like learning new things, actually doing new things, something that hasn't been done
Mhm.
before, something that you're building from zero to one. And I just didn't have this feeling anymore. I felt that maybe elsewhere
Mhm.
I would have more opportunities to do that. And
Mm.
then what I did ultimately is I was very pragmatic about that and very rational. I've listed all the kind of accomplishments and experiences and things that I can bring to the table and thought, okay, which are the
Mm.
companies out there that, I can transfer those things to, and at the
Mhm.
same time, because it's a two-way street, where I can learn something new industry-wise. And Meta was, inevitably one of the companies on this list, together with many other tech companies.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just literally applied. There was no one
Mhm.
recommending me, no one referring me. So I applied like
Mhm.
many other people and got this amazing opportunity to be the EMEA director for new business for ecosystem partnerships.
Mm.
Um, I wouldn't say that the transition was easy. I don't think it's ever
Yeah.
easy when you're changing the industry where you're very
Yeah.
comfortable to something,
Mhm.
where you're very uncomfortable. But, main thing is to sort of is to focus on the product and to learn the product in
Mhm.
depth. Whereas all your soft skills and all your
Yeah.
ways of doing business and managing a team and motivating a team and working with partners, which is for me has always been like a big part of my job, representing the company and working with partners externally, it's still with you, right? No one is taking
Mhm.
it away from you. It's something that you built
Mm.
within yourself, and that's your huge asset. So I was relying on those, and I was hugely relying on the team that I had. And I was so lucky. They were just absolutely amazing people. And I think that one of the probably the biggest asset of Meta in general, any
Mm.
office, any division, is the
Mhm.
people that they have, some of the smartest
Yeah.
people in the industry. So yeah, with kind of those two pillars,
Mm.
I did transition and I did enjoy my time at Meta tremendously.
Oh, I can imagine. And I also love, as you were saying, the reason why I moved industry from publishing to PR agency was because, okay, I already know how to write well. I already know how a magazine works. I can publish my own magazine if I want to. So where can I go from here? So I think that is a good indication for like when you feel like you can do things with your eyes shut, you can already do things in your sleep. That is when you need to either move up or move out. So it's a good encouragement, indeed. And what was about the tech industry, especially you work in big tech? What was the things that as an outsider you didn't know or you had a misconception as soon as you're in the big tech? What was the revelation like? Oh, apparently this is the fact. What was it?
I think the biggest revelation slash opportunity, I will call it this way, is the scale at which you can make things happen. Right? I think one of the very, very early conversations I had with my VP back then, Kristen Warner, uh, she was, I'm a newcomer. She's giving me this pep talk, even though it's
Mm,
very friendly, but still, she's
yeah.
like, swing high. Here you have the opportunity to swing high. And I think
Mm,
this is like anyone I think can relate to it, right? Even if you are a
mm,
solo founder of a startup. I think
mm,
as women, I'll say we, I hope I don't do it as much anymore, but I see, unfortunately and sadly, lots of female founders doing that. We kind of
mhm,
belittle ourselves. So we negotiate with ourselves before the negotiation with, another party even starts, right? And we think that, we are not there yet to ask for $1 million funding. Well, let's ask for 600,000. Or we're not there yet. We're not generating enough. Or, I still have to learn something before I do it full time. All of those things. And I
yeah.
mean, I kind of use this swing high encouragement
Mm,
and metaphor and, just to say, hey, you're there already, even though you might not feel that you're ready.
mm,
uh, like no one tells you that you should be starting only when you're ready. Start before. You'll
yes.
figure it out on the way. There will be no problem if you figure it out on the way, other than maybe you will make a couple of mistakes, which is also, that's not the end of the world. That's actually something that probably we even want to encourage ourselves to do more mistakes because that's how we learn.
Mm-hmm,
So yeah, I think that's the scale of doing things and the opportunities that are like usually everywhere. And I think your major
mm-hmm,
task is not to kind of focus on something, but rather prioritize because opportunities are
yeah.
everywhere and you need to come
Mm,
up with your own criteria of how to
yeah.
prioritize and how you choose,
Mm-hmm,
and then just make the most of it.
absolutely true. And how about, you know, the famous saying that, move fast, break things. How was it translated for you in your day-to-day work life at Meta?
Yeah, if I were to, put it in one sentence, I think it's question everything.
Mm,
It's really kind of the traditional way of doing things. At Meta, everyone's encouraged to question that. And if anyone, like literally anyone, sees a better way, a more efficient way, a more potentially profitable way, a more interesting or creative way to get something done, they are encouraged to speak up. So I think
mm,
that's how you would put it, in short and in a nutshell. But yeah, that's one of the posters that Meta is very famous for this culture of posters. So literally every
yeah.
office is plastered with those. Sometimes it's motivational quotes, sometimes it's things like this, like the company values really. My personal
Mhm,
favorite one though is
yeah.
it's a question. So it's not a motivational thing, but it's a thing that
Mhm,
is provoking some thinking in you. Um, and this says literally, what would you do if you weren't afraid?
oh, I love
And if you
that.
ask yourself, when you start doing something, if you ask yourself every time, like, what would I do really if I weren't afraid, if I weren't, overthinking, if I weren't thinking, okay, what these people say about me or whatever, just go for it. To my previous point of swing high, I think that's a
Mhm,
powerful one. That's a powerful one.
yes. Stop playing small, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so funny because I'm from Indonesia and I only moved to England about 3 years ago. And so I spent my entire life just between Jakarta and Bali. That's it. Um, and there's a saying in Indonesian culture, um, swing for the moon because even if you fail, you get the stars. Something along those lines. So yeah, I think I think we need that encouragement and reminder every day. And I remember reading that question, like, what would you do if you weren't afraid? I remember reading that the first time in Sheryl Sandberg's book, in Lean In. And that was actually what nudged me to, because I was pregnant at the time I was reading that book. And it was my first pregnancy. And I thought, oh my God, is this going to be the end of my career? You know? And when I read her book, I thought, okay, why? And as you, to your point, why am I negotiating against myself? I mean, if they are going to reject me, let them do that. But I'm going to take the chance. Even if I'm going to strike, at least I'm going for the bat. So I think that is a really powerful reminder for us all. So going now, having that wonderful culture, having that wonderful experience. So what made you jump off of the Meta train?
Yeah, so I think that's again the opportunity. It's probably, every one of us have this superpower. I like to call it's probably not too high superpower, but I think everyone has superpowers. So I'm kind of generalizing here. Mine is probably about feeling the right moment and seeing the opportunity. Helped me throughout my career in business development, right? Because in biz dev, it's mostly like you need to catch the right moment and you need to connect the dots in a way that no one else is connecting the dots, right? You kind of jump on the opportunity and you realize it. And ultimately, that's what I did with my own career as well, right? I just realized that I have this wealth of knowledge, I have this wealth of experience, and people come to me regardless, that I'm having my corporate job where I'm working 14 to 16 hours a day, and they still ask for my advice. And to be fair, right, I have been investing as an angel investor for a long time before as well. So alongside my corporate career, I was always interested in the startup world, partially because a large amount of partners that I worked with back at Meta or Expedia, they are startups as well, right? Startup scale-ups, different size. So whenever there was an opportunity and whenever I believed in founders and in the business idea, I was investing small checks. And then at one point, I realized that, okay, there is apparently enough demand for my personal advisory and consultancy from this pool of startups that know me already. And it wasn't a huge pool, right? Because I have never been actively promoting the fact that I'm investing. It was probably more of a word of mouth and just people from my network knowing me, and knowing when to come to me and what I can help with. And yeah, it was literally that moment when I realized, okay, let's try to focus on that. And even you see, like the first question that you asked me was, you're doing many things. I'm still doing, obviously focusing on this, and then doing other things as well, because I feel that exploring in a way is part of life, is a big part of life for me specifically. Again, to the point of learning, I think it allows me to just learn so much more about different industries and different types of businesses, which you can also, use for the benefit of my clients and the founders that I work with. And I think also, another important motivator is, I don't know if it was the same for you as well. It's kind of when you feel strong enough, when you realize that I can do it on my own, yes, there is like a more flexibility, other benefits of running your own business, but also you feel that yeah, I'm there. It's nothing else to kind of to wait, because anyways, at one point of my life, I wanted to build something of my own. I wanted to run a business, and who knows, maybe in a couple of years, I will run a tech startup, right? But at this moment
Yeah.
of time, having my own small consultancy. It's myself and two people who support me. One on the tech side and then like integrations that we
Mhm.
do for the clients, and another one on marketing and account management and admin stuff.
Yeah.
But if we're managing to work with at any moment of time with 5, 6, 7 startups, I think it's amazing for 3 people. So I'm very
Yes.
happy on this front, and I'm happy that I took sort of this leap of faith in myself and my ability to establish it on my own and start running it on my own, and then with this small amount of people. So yeah,
Yeah.
again about inflection points, I guess in
Yeah.
life, and
Mhm.
making sure that you've gathered your potential, like you're prepared
Uh-huh.
for this inflection point, and like
Mhm.
off you go, right?
Right. And it's also interesting because you have been an angel investor for so long, and when you see yourself, like, why wouldn't I invest in myself, right? So, and
Absolutely.
speaking of
Yes, yes, yes.
that, yeah. And so
Absolutely.
when was it? When was your first investing journey? Tell me more about it.
Sorry, say it again. When was my first investment? Because I don't know, my headphones are
Yes.
failing slightly. Oh, that was, I think, during COVID. Definitely during COVID. I don't remember
Oh yeah.
the year or month specifically, but there are two things that actually COVID brought to my life. So one was
Mhm.
starting investing, because as you can imagine, back then I was still with Expedia. Travel really wasn't a hot industry during COVID, to say
Mm.
just to say the
Yeah.
least. Yeah, no, we were doing some great things during COVID as well. That pace was obviously way slower, so I was kind of exploring other opportunities in my free time as well, and investing was one of them. And another thing that I started doing during COVID was actually painting, and that was mostly for stress relief purposes. But believe it or not, I actually continue doing both, right? I continue investing and I
Yeah.
continue painting as well. Now, not for stress relief, but just for pleasure.
Wow. And then how did you decide as a newbie investor? And at the time you weren't working with Meta, so you know, I know that in Expedia, of course, you also deal with a lot of startup, but of course it's a different beast, right? So how did you decide A, how much you want to invest, and B, what kind of industry, what kind of niche, what kind of founders do you want to invest in? Because we know that people most likely to invest in the founder versus in the product itself.
For sure. No, I think it's a very, very good question. I can tell you actually a little anecdote. It's from the last Web Summit, happening normally in November in Lisbon, like this big event for startups and investors. And one of my founders, the founders that I've invested in and I work with as an advisor, she was speaking on a panel there about diversity and gender equality in the startup space.
Mm.
And she was asked whatever question about equality. And she actually brought up the topic of, yes, there is so little diversity in the founder space, but there's even less diversity in the investor space, like similar to what you
Yes.
were referring to. And then she introduced myself, like as an investor, one of her angel investors sitting in the audience. You cannot imagine what happened. People started clapping. uh, I was so surprised because no one ever claps to male investors. They are, it's a normal thing, male investor,
Yeah, yeah,
VC, angel investor, like whatever. It's like it cannot be more normal than that. But when people
yeah.
hear about a female angel investor that actually caused a round of applause, it was nice, but at the same time, it kind of shows the state of the industry, right? So it's not too many of us,
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
there. So back to your question, right? I think it's very important to encourage more women to perhaps start investing and actually, showcase them that it can be quite easy to start. My first investment was quite small. I think it was 3-4K. So not a huge check. And it was more opportunistic. It was a company that I used to work with, travel space, so the space that I knew really well. And I felt that, they have some bigger future. So they were just starting, and I felt, looking at them, so kind of using my professional knowledge, that they have a bigger future.
Yeah.
That was my first investment. Later on, there were some other ones in travel space as well. So it's kind of, you start with what you're more comfortable
What
with.
do you know?
Exactly. You
Yeah.
start with, the things that you can properly assess yourself, right? You can do your due diligence easily. And then after that, I think it started expanding into spaces like femtech, which potentially, I'm also comfortable with as a user. So also something that I know.
Yeah.
And then more of social media and B2B SaaS and other things that, like you naturally, right? You expand your knowledge, you expand your network, you expand your understanding, and also you learn as well. Right? You learn on the
Yes,
go.
absolutely.
But to my point, there are probably two things, right? So one thing is investing is fairly easy. You can do it directly. There are also plenty of various platforms now for
Yeah.
emerging investors or newbie investors. You can do
Yeah.
crowdfunding. You can do plenty of other things. So there are
Mhm.
plenty of vehicles that are simplifying your journey there. And I think another important thing is to actually think holistically of your investment portfolio, right? Because venture, investing in startups, it's high risk, high return, what we call it, right? So
Yeah.
inherently, it's quite a risky type of investment. 80 to 90% of startups unfortunately fail. That's the reality. So if you do it, you have to be thinking portfolio wise, right? Not invest in one or two startups, but a wider, larger
Yeah.
amount. And also think of what will balance out your venture investments. So something that would be more conservative, more traditional investments, like real estate, ETFs, whatever. Just balance it out and make venture part of your overall investment portfolio. So think kind of holistically of that.
Yeah. And when people think about angel investment, or they're looking to start raising, what is the consideration that they also, anyone, on the flip side, anyone can invest as well, right? Um, but I believe that we should also be selective on who becomes our investor. So you don't just accept any money from anyone. So what would your advice be to female founders raising, what to look for when they're looking to get money from angels or VC or even crowdfunding?
Absolutely. No, that's a huge point and a very, very important point. And I, to the discussion that we had around how difficult it is for female founders to raise compared to their
Yeah.
male counterparts. Sometimes there is this temptation to accept any money that's just out there simply because it might be
Yeah.
the last opportunity, right? There might
Yeah.
not be any other opportunity, unfortunately.
Mm.
Um, in these situations, what I advise to to my founders, the founders that I work with, is you need to be looking for at least one other benefit in this investor apart from money, right? So only money is not a deal good enough for you as a founder. That's normally my pitch in this. So it can be either network or any sort of specific expertise that you need as a founder, something else, some knowledge, I don't know, of any particular market, geographical market where you want to expand or whatever. But at least one of these needs to be there in addition to the money. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in this kind of,
Money is
with this,
money is second.
say it again, sorry.
No, I was thinking that maybe in this instance, money should be second
Often
because
it can be, yes. Often it can be because as a founder, especially, angel investing normally goes in very early rounds, so it's pre-seed. Sometimes there's even no MVP. There might be only the idea, or you have an MVP but you don't have yet the product market fit. So it's very, very early on. And for you, someone who can help you close a couple of first contracts, or can help you with the MVP, is this proposition is way more valuable than a check, right?
that cash. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how you need
Exactly.
to be kind of filtering out the people that are out there. And I think what's also very important is to start raising before you start raising, right? So you also start building your network and you start making yourself visible, be it on social media, be it on meetups with other founders or meetups with, VCs or angel investors. Kind of spread the word about who you are and what you do so that people start reaching out to you then. And you will probably, by the moment when you need to raise, you will have more choice. You will have several
Yeah.
people who are interested, and then you will be able to think of, okay, do I need this investor better and more now compared to the other investor? Maybe the other one will go for the next round. We'll still keep in touch with them. We'll still, keep them warm, keep them updated of what's happening with us as a startup. But at this moment of time, we need this specific person because he was head of product at somewhere and he knows how to help us build the product, right? So you need to be very
Yes.
purposeful in those things.
Yes. Absolutely. I totally resonate with that because again, you can get money anywhere, but the advice, the reach, the contact, that worth more than a check, because that is how you really launch and then eventually scale, right? And now, interestingly enough,
Absolutely.
I spoke to a female tech founder recently, and she was looking to get a marketing agency to help her go to market, and it's a B2B startup as well. And she said most marketing agencies don't even mention that a founder should have a personal brand, and I'm quite surprised by that. And you mentioned that you should go out there as a founder. You have to start raising before you're raising. You should start selling before you even have the product, right? So what's your experience been with a lot of these, especially female founders that you work with and you're in touch with? What has been the challenge or the mental block that they don't want to get uh, their personal brand really established before, even when they already have a viable product, even if they have already product in market, but they're still like, do I really have to?
Yeah, that's true. I think I observe quite a bit of that. I think first reason is very it's very operational, very day to day. I think they might be busy like doing other things and prioritizing
Yeah.
other things because we know that like
Mm-hmm.
founders are working 24/7. I don't know how it is for you. Sometimes for me it is the case. I wish that it wouldn't be
Oh
the
yeah,
case, but
I
yeah,
never see any.
sometimes it is, right?
For me,
And
it's all weekend.
yeah, so I think, if they kind of prioritize by audiences, probably like they prioritize customers, then maybe they prioritize investors, and then kind of wider audience goes third, if not fourth, after the team, because team is also, you have to keep the team motivated. You have to work with your guys too. So I guess that's problem of not having enough hours in a day. So that's one. But two is actually surprisingly, I think so many people still have this idea of product speaking for itself in their head,
Mhm.
which is
Mhm.
in many cases true. But before
Mhm.
you have the product, or before the product is big enough, that's you. You are the
Mhm.
product. That's what
Yeah.
I tell founders, right? People invest in you.
Mm.
People invest in the team, in the founder, in earlier stages. And when I say invest, it's not only kind of fundraising investment, but actually also invest their time, like getting to know the product as well, right? So if you are
Mhm.
vocal enough and visible enough about the product, it's also driving the traction further on, right?
Yeah.
So I am a big fan, to be honest, of working properly with the personal brand of the founder, because it's just serving so many purposes,
Yeah.
including the purpose of building the product traction, but also so many other ones as well, and fundraising and building the network of potential partners, which is super important if you are in the B2B space, right? You can be
Yeah.
speaking on, some industry conferences, you can be speaking on conferences or events or meetups that are dedicated to certain topics where you never know what you can find. You will never know
Yeah.
before you, if you
Yeah.
don't go there or before you go there. So I think personally, there's some amount of hours, amount of time during the week that I think every
Mhm.
founder has to actually be spent on this, or working with someone who is advising them or consulting them, or like completely,
Mhm.
they can delegate it or
Yeah.
outsource it,
Over.
or but at
Yeah.
least, yeah, but at least kind of making sure that it's one of the goals and one of the KPIs. I think it's very
Mhm.
important, hugely important.
So, as an investor, when you are um, considering either to invest or even considering to get to know other founders, what do you look for? I mean, I know we don't judge book by its cover, blah, 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 but we, of course, would size up the people from the way they put out their content, the way they present themselves. So tell us what you actually see when you're putting your investor hat on, when you look at other, especially female founders, when they post things on LinkedIn, especially.
That's a very, very good question. I was recently having a similar conversation with a good friend. You actually, maybe you should be talking to her as well on your podcast. So her name's Claudia. She's Italian, and
Okay.
she is a founder as well. So she set up this amazing community for people who work in partnerships or who want to enhance the partnerships function within their company. And we were discussing like how people build partnerships, different types of partnerships, because investment is
Yeah.
a partnership in that sense as well, right?
Yeah.
So we're discussing how to build long-lasting and conscious partnerships, as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
transactional, one-off,
Right.
whatever. I buy something from you once and then I don't remember the name
Yeah.
of your company anymore. So we were discussing this, and the kind of, I think a lot of it is like it starts with connecting, and then it goes to communication, and only then it goes to partnership or collaboration.
Yeah.
So I think the connection point is really around, does the person talk to the same values that you have? Do they
Mm-hmm.
actually live and breathe what they do? Or is it something
Mm.
that's, not close to their heart at all, and they do it just to be doing something? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and are you able to build trust with this person? And this you only
Mm.
understand when you actually start communicating. But before that, it's
Yes.
it's always the values, and it's always like how passionate they are about that product, how knowledgeable they are
Mm.
as well about their product or the business, or the idea that they have. Do they really represent it, in the sense that are they the best person to be solving this need,
Building.
or to be building the product, for this idea? Is it really something that's in their blood, in their DNA? I guess that's a very kind of first scanning exercise, if you so want. And then it's all about trust and seeing that they are in depth in what they do. They know their numbers, they know their product, they know where they want to be in 3-6 months. They have this roadmap, not only the North Star, not only the vision, but the roadmap to it as well. And those are kind of the two main points that help the decision making there.
Yeah, that is a good tip. I mean, I've always believed in that you have to show up authentically, but a lot of people are confused by that. Like, what do you mean? Well, I think what I mean by that is if you are really passionate about this particular subject, for example, if you are in fertility business in femtech, then do tell your own fertility challenge. So people know that you're not just following the trend, you are your first customer, for example, right? So, and that brings the level of trust as well, because she's not doing it for money. First of all, she's doing it to solve the problem, and if money comes to sustain her, to eventually build and scale this thing, then great. So I think that is absolutely right, that the trust level can be built just by you sharing your own personal journey, like how you came about with the idea. Like, are you really, or is the idea and I think that is how I see male and female founders are different. A lot, of course I'm generalizing, a lot of male founders build products because they see a white space, they see opportunities, which is commendable commercially. But a lot of female founders built something because they come across a problem and they couldn't find a solution elsewhere. And they thought, somebody has to make this.
For sure. And I
What
think
about your,
this is actually, no, I think this is the best motivation. Because if you think of a founder's journey, right, it's probably several years of you're raising, then you're building, you're raising, and you're building, or maybe you're bootstrapping, maybe you're not even raising, so you're very, very tight on the funds. You need something to keep you motivated through before, hopefully something great and amazing appears out of it. Normally, that's at least 2 to 3 years until this moment that you need to keep yourself and your team motivated. And these personal motivations, I see them working really, really well for this specific reason. I think money is a great motivation as well, right? I think many of us are, we're doing it for the money, right? It's work. And I think it's healthy this way as well, that we don't make our startup our entire life, right? We still focus, okay, this is work. And apart from work, we have our families, our children, plenty of things that we do as well. So money is great motivation as well. This motivation is always short term. So it's good to keep yourself short term motivated, but at the same time, knowing that, okay, I'm doing it for a reason. There's a good cause behind it, and I'm bought in this good cause. And this is also something that I'm communicating to my team, because ideally they also need to be bought in this specific good cause.
Yes, exactly. Because it's so different. Again, you very much, that only the big tech can afford big salary. The real, day-to-day startup, they cannot afford to pay big salary. And therefore, you need to sell to your team when you're recruiting that you are, you're a part of building something big. You're not just, doing a 9 to 5, clocking in and out and getting a salary at the end of the month, right? So if you can recruit using your purpose and passion, and then the vibe of your content as well will attract the right people, the right partner, advisors, and so on. Now, speaking of your current business, you are a professional advisor, right? So what sort of startup do you normally work with as a client?
Yeah, so you can call me a professional advisor. In reality, I think there are probably three types of work that we do. One is indeed just using my brain or myself as a sounding board for the founders or
Mhm.
for the leadership team.
Yep.
Another one is, pure kind of hands-on work that my team normally does. There are some integrations,
Mm-hmm.
technical integrations, or building a commercial strategy for the startup that, for instance, is just, starting to scale their sales. It's a kind of a sweet spot there when the sales were or used to be led by a founder, and they reached a point where they are ready to hire a proper team and set up the structure and the KPIs and so on and so forth. So this is when we come and we help set this up and even hire the few first people, and then we sort of fade away when the structure is there. And then the third type of engagement that I started doing at the end of last year is actually me acting as fractional chief commercial officer, chief revenue officer. So literally joining the founders for a couple of hours every day, for instance, and
Mm-hmm.
contributing on a more ongoing and continuous basis then, right? Building the
Mm-hmm.
team and motivating the team and being present at the industry events and so on. So it's kind of more in-depth engagement, which I'm also enjoying quite a bit. In terms of the startups, different ones, mostly B2B space,
Okay.
simply because of my expertise and my
Yeah.
literally experience throughout all my life. I know where I can bring value, and it's mostly B2B. A lot of them are B2B SaaS. So any tools,
Mm.
from HR tools to sales tools to different subscription tools for families, for women, if we're talking about femtech,
Mm. Yeah.
anything social media related as well. And I think there's
Mm-hmm.
another big vertical which also appeared from my interest as an investor. I mentioned that I invest in climate tech, and that's kind
Yeah.
of my good cause as well. If we're talking about the good
Mm-hmm.
causes, it's a way for me to
Mm-hmm.
contribute to the health of the planet. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, what we call, impact startups. So something
Mm.
that's not only for profit, but is also bringing some measurable improvements for environment, for,
Mm-hmm.
diversity, for education, for some causes that matter. I work
Mm-hmm.
quite a bit with those as well.
Wow. And you know that these startup have various budget. Do you um are you comfortable to share like how much people need to have before they could afford you and your your company?
It really depends on the project. I think,
Mm-hmm.
there are different, like very, very small types of engagements where, I can really kind of charge per hour to have a conversation and to give
Mm-hmm.
some hints and tips or help with some introductions. So for this, you don't
Mm-hmm.
really need a lot. And the engagements that are more long term,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, that's probably something which you as a startup or as a founder would want to start investing in once you got your first or second round, right? I think that's
Mm-hmm.
also kind of thinking of where to focus your effort, where to invest your
Yeah.
effort, because I focus on these kind of commercial and revenue generating activities, probably at
Yeah.
those first
Mm-hmm.
stages when it's very, very early, when you're just building the
Mm-hmm.
product. You don't need much of the
Mm-hmm.
commercial help. You
No,
as a
not yet.
founder or a couple of co-founders, you can start kind of building this sales journey. But when you
Yeah.
realize that, okay, we are in between the pre-seed and the seed round, we need to show traction to the investors. We need to sign several good contracts with good ARR.
Mhm.
This is when you need to
Mhm.
invest in sales and revenue and commercial activities. That's the sweet spot.
Oh, lovely. I would probably take you up on that one-to-one strategy consulting myself.
Amazing. I'll
Because
be very happy as long as we both show up in pink again. We take our pink ups
of
and we act as a
course,
team on this.
absolutely, and we have to make content about this. Like,
For sure. Yes. Yes. Building
yeah,
the
and
strategy
it's
live.
so
Yes.
exactly, and it's a good excuse for me to go to Spain as well. So now going back to you talking about you would love to see more startup having actual impact. Now I'm wondering, when you were anointed as King Eugenia, what does that kingdom look like?
Yeah. So you read my mind. I think that would be the focus of myself as a king, to make sure that whatever businesses come to life in the country or in the kingdom, we keep in mind not only financial returns, which is obviously great to keep the economy going, but we also think about things like, climate action, clean energy, and affordable energy. We also think that, we fight the poverty, we fight the hunger, we contribute positively to diversity of any sort, be it gender or racial or whatever. We think about quality education as well. And by the way, now work with a startup that's supporting the education in India and Africa. So kind of, all of those things. So that this is a mandatory criteria, a mandatory ingredient in whatever type of business that we establish and whatever type of business there is in the country. Because that's my
Yeah.
main wish and my king's order.
Yeah. It's like, I want to be in that kingdom. I want to be the lady in waiting of that kingdom. Well, Eugenia, I can talk to you all day. I have so many questions still. So don't be alarmed. I will slide into your DM and ask questions. But thank you so much for your time and sharing your journey and your insights, your observation about female founderhood. And if you would like to give one last advice for those female founders, especially who's at the moment thinking about raising, what would that be?
Swing high. Out of all the things that I
Swing.
mentioned today, if I were to leave you with just one, swing high. And yeah, what would you do if you weren't afraid?
Yes. Oh my God. Such a good. We
Thank you
have
so
to
much,
have
Rebecca.
that tattoo.
That was a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you so much.
Okie doke. So, female founders listening, you are in for a treat because I still have loads and loads of new episodes coming up with various female representation from various different industry, product, service, from investors to investees. So tune in and see you in the next episode. Bye for now.